Welcome to Andy Decodes. Sit back and enjoy. As we dive deeper down into the rabbit hole and into the unknown.
Hello, welcome to this Sunday special where we are joined by the wonderful Paul Bartholomew. Fingers crossed that there's going to be no issues whatsoever with the internet. So,
Mic check.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Perfect.
Everything's good. So we're not going to be having a break on this one. We're just going to slam straight through and keep going.
We rolled the dice with the intro there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of glad we did it. So, all good. So thank you for joining me as well, Nicole, on because it's midday for you and it's like literally coming into night time here. So we are going to start off with the questions that we had previous for you, Paul, before we had all the issues. So we've got these 4 questions. I'm going to do 2 and Nicole will do 2. So we'll do them alternately. So I'll do the first one, and that's from UFO Joe. So he goes, "Hey, Paul, what do you know about the Betz sphere? And since you mentioned J. Allen Hynek, do you think he was involved in the disappearance of that?"
I don't know a lot about it. Only what was published in the journals. Yeah. I think even the tabloid, the National Enquirer, published articles on it. I don't know anything about the disappearance of it or any other details of it. I would suspect that Hynek would have been above boards with anything like that. I wouldn't imagine he would have any interest in doing anything with it other than publicizing it.
No, thank you for that. So you doing the next one?
Yeah, the next question is from Sober Carper, and he asked, "Does Paul believe there will be disclosure?"
We are in a time that I didn't think we'd see 5 years ago. Ever since the New York Times published that article, I think it was 2017, this has been a roller coaster. And now we know about ATIP and these different programs that the Pentagon has been studying. We knew really when Project Blue Book ended in 1969, we knew then, just a few years later, when they had the Freedom of Information Act, which was expanded, somewhat due to Watergate and stuff. Some of the rules around it were expanded, and we got a lot of UFO documents to come out. And with that, those disclosures, what John Greenwald has done and stuff, we see all this study of the UFO phenomena, even though the Air Force had officially ended their investigation and the government claimed there was no interest, or the American government. So we know that this has been going on for years. We know about the Tehran incident in 1976, where they were given permission to fire a missile to down an object, and the entire weapons control system of the plane, quote unquote, mysteriously deactivated. And then when the object was apparently a safe distance away from the F-4 fighter, it came back on the weapons control system. So we know that these types of incidents, very sensitive, were reported and investigated by government agencies. So, and now we find out that ATIP and the UAP phenomenon and so forth has been studied right along by the Pentagon. And so it's only makes sense that they would continue to investigate. Now we have congressional hearings. Last year were sensational congressional hearings, and there's now more that are actually classified that are going on the UAP phenomena. So we're at a point that I never thought we'd be at. So I mean, it's very clear. Anyone that actually looks at the evidence and follows the trail, looks at the documents and stuff, we are in a very interesting time period where all this information just seems to be coming out. And we know about, the Tic Tac incident and so forth, all these different military encounters. So, yeah, I am very hopeful that this is just the tip of the iceberg into more and more and more. And researchers, investigative journalists, mainstream investigative journalists like George Knapp have really pushed this to where we're at right now. And if we go back to 2017, pre-COVID times, I couldn't imagine we'd be in this spot right now. So I'm extremely encouraged and hopeful that these disclosures keep happening. And perhaps it's where we've reached a time where they can't be held back any longer. So I'm hopeful.
No, thank you for that.
So before we go to the next question, I have a follow-up on that one. Paul, what do you think, like, the end game for, the pieces of information that we've gotten from the government is? Do you think it's leading towards full disclosure of everything they know? Do you think it's leading towards an attack? Where do you think it's going?
I don't know. You can only theorize. And if we listen to the whistleblowers, then we have far more intelligence about what's going on than's been disclosed so far. But, we may be in a position where, apparently when you come into a military type of situation with these objects, we're virtually, we're obsolete. These are far in advance. Whatever this phenomena is, it seems to be far in advance of our military advances. So whatever this is far ahead of us. And so it's really at their it's at their juncture what's going to be shown and what isn't. I think the paper trail is probably there. There's probably stunning documents that will come out in the years to come. And I think that's probably what we're going to see. I don't know of any, I wouldn't know of any end game, because it appears that this phenomena has been with us forever. This doesn't appear to be like, a modern invasion type of thing or anything like that. This phenomena can be traced back to ancient times right up to modern times. And for the skeptics out there that say things like, these are just drones, that's the new skeptical excuse. Well, it certainly wasn't a drone in the 1940s. Certainly wasn't a drone through the 50s and 60s when these other military, it wasn't a drone in 1976 when the Tehran incident happened and so forth. So yeah, it's just a garbage excuse that a lot of the skeptics use. And I take offense to that when they talk about pilots and they say, well, it's glare off their windshield. These are pilots that fly for the Nimitz carrier group and so forth. These are highly trained individuals. And when they're in awe of something, it's special. So whatever this phenomenon is, I think it's been with us for a long, long time. And so I don't know of any end game, except maybe we'll get a little bit closer to that source, whatever the source is.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, who do you think then is in charge? Well, we kind of know who's in charge of like releasing the disclosure, like releasing the evidence that they've got. But do you think they're going to be more forgiving or more restricted on the information that they do give out to us?
I think that might have been almost a trial balloon, that those congressional hearings. But I think the best way to look at it, I think the genie's out of the bottle, and it's going to be awfully hard to put it back in the bottle now. And I hear some of the skeptics talk about the end of ufology, and I couldn't disagree more. This is a whole new perspective on ufology, and I think it's totally been validated, because mainstream, we're having press conferences that are talking about UFOs in the mainstream with no chuckles, no X-Files music in the background, nothing like that. It's being taken very seriously. So I think we're in a whole new area, and I think I'm very hopeful.
No, cheers for that.
Yeah.
Have you anything to add, Nicole? Because
No, we can move on. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
okay. That's right. Because I know it's new to what's just come out, but we was talking about it on Friday, and I've seen another similar video of it today. This jellyfish UFO thing. What are your thoughts and take on that? On the first one, that is the one going over the military base.
Right. I don't know. The only thing I would say is that it's not unusual for unidentified objects to be in sensitive military installations. This has been a pattern that can go back to Bentwaters and five, I think it was NORAD stations there. And in the States, it was like 5 Air Force bases that were besieged in 1975. So this is a pattern that goes that continues to occur. So it would not surprise me if that was a legitimate video. But I definitely would have to wait to see some of the technical analysis of it. It looks, all I can say is it looks very compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's another one on Instagram today, but it looks like it's taken from CCTV in someone's yard. And so it's like it's coming towards the camera and moves around, but it's very translucent. So it's really difficult to make out exactly what it is. There's like a bit of a trail on it, and it's moving slow, but as you know, it's quite easy to slow video footage down or speed it up. So
right.
And obviously there's no noise, there's no sound on it, so you can't even check that.
Does that one have any motion to it, or is it as stiff as?
Yeah, it kind of like it goes forward and then like comes round like that. Well, I'll see if I can find it. I did want to try and have a look, but I just didn't get a chance. Because you know when you watch something, then it goes and you're trying to find it again. It's like it's gone in the abyss. It's one of them. But if I can get it up, I'll see if I can find it. Sorry, right. So we'll go on to the next question then. Are you looking for it now, Nicole?
Yeah.
Right. So this is from Nickname. Yeah. The next question's from Nickname. This is from last time. She wants to know, what is Paul's favorite case?
There's a couple that, when you investigate, I've done this for about 5 decades.
Yeah.
And so there's certain cases that sort of rise above the others that I call confirmation cases. And are we talking a cryptozoological or ufological or both, or?
What the one that's like right at the top of all the others?
Sure. Right now, in terms of ufology, the landing at the La Cabana restaurant in 1973, which was not far from where I'm at, where something landed and the hot water taps ran cold in the restaurant and the cold water taps ran hot for about 3 weeks after the incident. And it left these concentric circles in the parking lot.
Yes.
And it was at the end of a major UFO flight. In fact, I've got a picture of I don't know if it'll show up here. But
you sent me those pictures, didn't you, when you was on last time?
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, right near where I live. It's 20 minutes away. But if we look at ufology in the sense of major cases, Betty and Barney Hill, right here in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, from 1961, the abduction case. I met Betty. There's no question about her sincerity.
Oh.
And something happened to them in the 1960s, her and Barney. And of course, you have cases like the Pascagoula, Mississippi abduction case, which was in 1973, the same year as the La Cabana incident, where Calvin Parker and Charles Hickson were floated aboard a craft by these robotic-looking entities. And I think that case held together very well. And obviously with UFO cases, there's so many. There's just such a database to draw from. If I were to focus on, let's say, Bigfoot cases in my area, in the Northeast here, I would say things like what happened, and it's not, it's not publicized widely, but we had in the Whitehall, Dresden, Clemens area in New York State, we had an incident where 2 Hong Kong nationals who worked at the local Chinese restaurant here in town.
Yeah.
They went up fishing in the Dresden area, and they went behind a tavern and they're fishing, and they see this ape-like creature wading through the water at chest level, and it was wading away from them. And I said to him, I said, what did you do? And they said, well, we went fishing. And the beauty of a case like that is that it wasn't all that unusual for them in their in their net where they were from, in their neck of the woods, to see a primate. They were just amazed that we had such large primates in this area. So they didn't even realize how great their sighting was. And they just went back to fishing. So you get cases like that are what I call confirmation moments, where you have my ex-neighbor, unfortunately he's passed away, Dan Gordon, was a Whitehall patrolman. We had to keep his identity secret for 22 years before he finally came forward.
Wow.
He was on duty with another police official, and they saw a creature cross the road in front of their cruiser. Probably the most, popular type of Bigfoot encounter. Yeah. And they said it crossed the road on 3 steps. My brother is 6'1". He tried to imitate for the film crews because the History Channel came up and filmed it. And he couldn't even get across a shorter road in 3 steps. It took him 5 or 6 steps. So whatever it was is very impressive. And they both saw it. Dan got out and drew his weapon and tried to pursue it, but it was long gone. And I remember Dan was in my living room with a forensic sketch artist. And it took hours to put together this sketch of the creature. And I'll never forget, he said, I want you to look at the sketch, close your eyes, and now think of what you saw in your mind. And now open your eyes and tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 where we're at. And I remember Dan said, that's a 9 or a 9.5. And he pointed to his head and he says, because a 10's right here. And then he took a polygraph test and was shown to have no deceptions. So Andy had confirmation from the other police official that was with him at the time. So that's a hard case for the skeptic to just dismiss as, fanciful or imagination. And Dan did not want the sighting. It was a negative for him. For 22 years, he had to keep it hidden because he did not want to be known as the Bigfoot cop. And so I think those are what I call those confirmation cases where, something's going on here. And these are people that they have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. That'll bring us to one of the questions that we've just got in the chat. So I think this is Derek. He's changed his name. Someone says hello, Derek, and there's no Derek in the chat, so I'm presuming this is him. If not, we're going to call you Derek anyway, because I'm not even going to try and read what that says. So the question is for Paul: has he heard of any urban Bigfoot cases like near a city?
Absolutely. If we go down to Albany, New York, our state capital here in New York, 10 miles south of Albany is Kinderhook, New York. And it's down around the Washington Irving Headless Horseman territory there. And that area, even though you're very close to a city, has Bruce Helmbeck has documented the Kinderhook creature down there. And scores of sightings of Bigfoot type creatures, primates down there. I know there was a researcher who was investigating Bigfoot type cases near Staten Island.
Oh.
And when we went back and researched some of the old New York Herald Tribune articles and things, they talked about unknown monkey-like creatures being sighted in Amityville, which obviously became very famous for another paranormal, very controversial. But sightings near cities are not unheard of. In fact, one very respectable, I'll just say a Woodlands official had a sighting, and he told me, and it strictly, can't use his name or anything, but he said that his sighting was they were in unexpected places. So, Yeah, the sightings near urban areas, just like with UFOs. We know that there's many sightings near major cities.
Yeah. Oh, so do you get many reports then of like Bigfoot and UFO sightings in the same area at the same time? I think I asked you this last time. I can't remember.
Yeah. What we found is that the deeper you look into a sighting, the more details emerge to show how complex the larger picture is. And I'll give you a classic example. If we go back to 1976, there was an incident in Whitehall, New York, rural Whitehall in Hampton, New York, on Abair Road. And it's ABAIR. And to really capsulize, over a week-long period, we had at least a dozen witnesses to a bipedal creature, 7 to 8 feet tall, walking like a man but looking like a gorilla, making a sound like a pig squeal or a woman screaming, high pitch, and having red glowing eyes. So we look at that, and for instance, the Glens Falls Post-Star, which is our local paper, they carried this article, which was Officers Track Creature. In it, they talked about the incident, which involves several police agencies, but they only mentioned the Bigfoot phenomena. There was a separate article written by the Rutland Herald, which included the UFO phenomena going on at the same time. So I began researching UFO cases for 1976, and it would appear that August. Now this creature report occurred August 24th through September 1st of 76. And wouldn't you know it, that the entire month of August was besieged by UFO reports in this area, including highly respectable cases that had, I think it was the Peekskill nuclear facility on alert by some of the guards seeing a UFO. And it was well publicized and well reported. So it was a massive UFO flap in this area at the same time that the creature phenomena was going on. So I interviewed Bob Martell, who was the Whitehall police dispatcher on duty that evening. And he told me that he couldn't recall whether it was a week before or a week after the Abair Road creature sightings. They had a report of a UFO landing on the avenues in Whitehall, which is absurd because it's all houses. And yet something round 20, 25 feet landed. The woman, we verified the woman's account, and she said it landed and then took off shortly before Wilfred Goslin and Bob Martell arrived, because they're only 2 streets over. And Bob Martell said there was a matted down patch of 20, 25 feet in diameter grass that he went over, and he kneeled down and reached down. He could still feel the heat coming off where something had landed. Very similar to what happened with the Lackawanna incident. So we have this very strange connection between the UFO and the Bigfoot phenomena. And then if we take it a step further, there were reports of Thunderbird or Pterodon. A couple of hunters had reports of those. And so this all happened at the very same time. And it's hard to think that that's just a coincidence.
Yeah. And do you find that there's a high rate of reported Bigfoot sightings and other cryptid sightings around nuclear power plants as well? I know there's a lot of like UFO sightings around those, but what about Bigfoot? Good question. I don't know. That's a very interesting question, because I know they've noted that on the maps, how many of particularly the triangular UFO reports are near military installations. And so, that would be something to definitely somebody that has a large database to look into. Yeah. Very interesting.
Do you want to do the last question from last time?
So Jojo wants to know, does Paul believe there are Bigfoot in the UK?
Well, whatever this phenomena is, it's definitely global. So we know that we have a rich history of cryptozoological, if we're looking particularly at the Bigfoot phenomena in Australia, where you have the Yowie or the Yahoo or the, the devil's devil, whatever they want to call it there. We know that there's reports all over the world. The Che Ren in China. I corresponded with some of the Chinese researchers back in the 70s, which was a grueling process of mailing packages back and forth and translating them, which now would be instant, So yeah, so that they have the Che Ren there. You have the Almista or Almisti or the Chachuna in the former Soviet Union. You had the Yeti or the Abominable Snowman in the Himalayas. It would not surprise me if there is an English component. In fact, I would probably expect it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking. So, with saying with it like in the UK, no, sorry, question's gone. I had it. It went. It come back. It's gone again.
I have one, and I can't remember if we talked about this last time. But all these different, areas, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Sasquatch, do you think they're all related, or are they all like completely separate, or are they the exact same thing?
I don't know. There are characteristics that are different. For instance, even in the United States, if you were to take the reports down in Florida of the skunk ape, they're a little different in description than you would get up in the the east where we're at, but New York State and so forth. Perhaps some of the ones out west are a little larger. Perhaps the ones in the Honey Island swamp area are a little more aggressive. There seem to be some regional characteristics, and there seem to be I don't know if I'd even be comfortable calling them cousins, but whatever these creatures that we see are, it seems to be a universal human characteristic, in that we are seeing them all over the place, and it's incredibly consistent in the sense that it's the same general description. I know when Tony Healy and Paul Cropper were visiting the area from Australia, some of the reports they had were very similar to the reports from up in the Northeast here. And they even had on the cover of one of their books, they had an Aboriginal drawing of one of these creatures with the 3 toes. And we got that report down in Kinderhook. Quite a few reports of 3 toes down there. So I don't know what that means exactly, only that being a researcher, I'm just going to collect the evidence as closely as it is. And I try not to go in with expectations, because I don't want to, I know researchers that won't report certain characteristics because it doesn't fit their theory. And I have no dog in the fight. I just want to know what's going on here. And there is a theory that John Keel and Brad Steiger had talked about, that these could be, all these phenomena could be manifestations from the same source phenomena. That is what we're trying to get at. And that puts the, then you get into the biological versus the paranormal. And, in essence, it may all be normal. It just is paranormal at this point of our understanding of it. And, I think that the truth is going to come out as, with the information that we collect. And when I met Dr. Hynek back in 1980 in New Hampshire, Bob Bletchman and Larry Fawcett were kind enough to introduce me to him, and chatted with him for a minute. He talked about parallel realities. He wasn't talking about outer space or aliens. He was talking about parallel realities. And he said that all the great religions and parapsychologists, seers and so forth, talk about another plane of existence. And perhaps that's what's going on here. We're delving into a parallel reality. And I think Hynek saw where this phenomena, where this research was going, all the way back in 1978, 1980.
Yeah, that was my question actually. Was do you think that they're natural creatures on Earth or extraterrestrial, or a bit of a mix of everything? But you kind of answered it, so
Yeah, I am wide open, and if somebody finds a bone, I'm there.
yeah,
And if somebody has a report that it disappeared in a ball of light, I'll take down that report. Cliff Sparks, who was the owner of the Skeem Valley Country Club here in Whitehall, he had a sighting in 1975, a year before the Abear Road incident. And he saw a creature he had the golf course there. And it was a 9 hole at the time. Now it's 18. But he was driving out to green number 1, which is near a small clump of woods. And the creature was standing on the greens. And the creature, he would drive out in this cart with his dog. And the dog would usually be very rambunctious and jump off the cart and jump back on the cart. The creature is staring at the dog when he gets there with the cart. And the dog just slumps over the side of the cart. Very unusual. But Cliff got a unique look at what the vision was of this creature, which he described as being, 7 to 8 feet tall, walking like a man. He said it actually moved sloth-like when it crashed through the brush and stuff. But he said that it had red glowing eyes, almost like lasers. And he said they were pointed directly at the dog and not at him. So he had this very unique look. And certainly that sounds very paranormal. I'm reminded of Janet and Colin Board's book, Alien Animals, where all the creatures on the cover have the red glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And very, very much a fan of those researchers.
No, cheers for that.
Yeah.
So I was just reading a couple of the stuff in the chat, but this one's questions from Warren. So he's asking, does Paul think that Bigfoot is responsible for missing people?
I did lecture one time in Ohio. I got to meet Dave Politis. Yeah. And certainly some of his cases would sort of cross over to that. I would think, probably. It certainly is plausible. I know that I knew Lorraine Warren from Connecticut, who was a paranormal, the Conjuring fame. Controversial couple in Connecticut. I always got along great with Lorraine. She was always very sweet with me. And they investigated a case in Tennessee of a creature grabbing at a child. And so, I would think that's fairly consistent primate type behavior. Remember when the boy fell in the pit, the zoo pit here in the United States, and the one gorilla went over and cradled the child to protect it from the others. So that wouldn't surprise me. We have that very weird report. I'm trying to remember where it was, whether it was Kentucky, where a small boy said that a bear had kept him warm because he was missing for multiple days in sub-zero weather. And the bear had taken care of him. And obviously his memory fades because he's getting older. And, we may never get to the truth, but it certainly sounds suspicious that it may have been one of these creatures. So, I think there are interactions like that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of stories like that where kids go missing and then they come back. Because I've heard quite a few where like bears or, Bigfoot supposedly, cared for them in their cave or their den or wherever they were. And then they found them safe.
Yeah. It's I remember that this particular child, I wish I could remember the exact details, but I'll just summarize it, is that it was found in like thickets, but he was unharmed and he should have had hypothermia, but something had definitely intervened, and he called it a bear that was standing, some sort of a standing bear or something of that nature. And, no one can really explain it. It's, basically it's a miracle. And, his memory, as all of our memories fade with time, especially when you're much younger. So we may never know the true answer, but that's a legitimate case. And that's one of those that the skeptic has to say, that's really interesting if they look at it objectively. But unfortunately, I think sometimes the skeptics are more religious.
It's true.
The one thing I always, when younger researchers ask me, I for advice or what would you give for advice for research, I said, don't let this become a religion. Stay objective, collect the information as it comes in, and don't have a set parameter of what you're going to find and what you don't find. Just don't allow this to become a religion. And unfortunately, I think that's happened to some people.
I forget who was saying it, but somebody was saying that like a skeptic is not a skeptic. They're a believer. They're just a believer in the fact that there's no paranormal. And they will fight as hard, onto that belief as, a true believer in the paranormal is going to be that there's ghosts, there's Bigfoot, there's UFOs.
Right.
You have to have something that's objective.
You got to stay in that center area. And I have people who are great believers, and I have people who are great skeptics. And I try to get along with everybody, and they're all friends. And I can talk skeptic. We've had, at the house here, we've had Joe Nickel and Ben Radford here. We always got along fine. And yet they would be completely skeptical of what I might perceive as being more legitimate. And so you just have to be open and if everybody does their job right, the truth will emerge. And I think with this recent UAP stuff going on, I think we're getting, maybe it's incidental disclosure, but you know what? I'll take it, because I never thought we'd be in this area 5 years ago. Yeah,
something's better than nothing, always.
And I think the main thing with that too is just be respectful. Whether you're a skeptic, a believer, you got to be respectful. You can't be belligerent coming at the other side.
Right. Nothing gets accomplished with that. And if you stay open and keep things on a legitimate, you can have an upper level conversation without being nasty.
Definitely.
100%.
Just going back to about the missing 411, isn't it? I remember watching one. I think it was on Prime, and I don't know if it's the same story. A kid had been taken, and they're all looking for him. He's out fishing or something with his granddad, and he'd been taken. And they found him a few days later, and where he was, oh no, it wasn't. Where they found him, it was a few hours later. Where it would have took him to walk there as a child would have took him something like 8 hours.
Yeah.
But they know he got there in like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah. Dave Politis has really touched a nerve with that research, because he exposed an area that had kind of been overlooked. And some of those cases are mind-boggling. And of course, the natural reaction, if you don't panic, is to just travel down. Just go down, and you'll eventually come to a stream or a road or things. And in a lot of these cases, the people get confused and they go up. And there's so many strange characteristics connected to it. And I agree. Some of those cases are absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. No, sorry, it wasn't. They didn't find him. It was his clothes that they found, and they found them a few hours later. But they'd been there. They did the forensics on it, whatever it was, and it'd been there for X amount of time. But it would have taken longer for him to get there than what it was when they found it. But when they found the boy, he was in this area that the police had checked about 5 or 6 times, and he said, from what I can remember, he said something big like a bear had took him, but he had all rips on his clothes. You don't know if it was barbed wire fencing or claws or whatever. He wasn't injured or anything, but it was just nothing made sense. 1 and 1 made 38.
The main thing was where they found his clothes. He couldn't have gotten there by himself in that time.
Impossible.
Something fast would have had to bring him there.
That was it.
That was the main takeaway from that.
Absolutely fascinating. And there's cases like not far from where we're at, Bennington, where I think it was Joe Citro coined the term Bennington Triangle. And at Bennington, Vermont, there are cases older cases where people are on a trail and they're only, 20, 30 feet apart, and they step off the trail and they're never heard from again. And that's really puzzling, because if you could imagine they fell and hurt themselves, you would come across them. If they were being attacked by an animal, you would certainly hear it, or there would be evidence of it. Those are really perplexing cases. And the missing 411 stuff is very fascinating to me.
Yeah, it is me. Because it's like they comb the areas over and over, and there's no evidence, and they'll go a couple of days later, and then you start finding stuff.
Right.
It's like that wasn't there and can't have been there, yet they're still not finding the person. It's like little bits of the puzzle, like bits of clues and what have you. So
clues that don't fit.
Yeah. So is that being done on purpose then, where they're going back to a specific area and they're finding like a bit of clothing or a mobile phone or some food that the person was carrying? Do you know what I mean? Is that whatever's doing it, giving them a clue as to what's going on? Or is it something playing games?
Yeah, you wonder just what's going on in that type of report. I can remember one from I think it was the 70s, the Bermuda Triangle case. Gagnon, I think was his name, who actually traveled in his small plane through what looked like a tunnel in the sky. And he actually arrived at his destination ahead of schedule several minutes that he shouldn't have. So,
right.
Yeah, you wonder if some of these cases aren't accidental, and these other ones seem very intentional. So yeah, it's a fascinating phenomenon.
Yeah. I would imagine if they're humanoid that they have their own motivations, and some are nice, some are not so nice, like everything else. So who knows?
Well, we know that with the Honey Island swamp area, the creature's more aggressive there, and so it may have to be more aggressive because it's in more competition with crocodiles and things like that. So alligators. It's I would imagine there's all sorts of regional characteristics to whatever these creatures are, but the universal is that when you boil it all down into a cauldron, we should have a body. And with all these places and all these incidents, we still don't have a body. And I think that's somewhat suspicious. I remember talking about that with Brad Steiger years ago. And of course, Brad did so much work over the years. Back in the 60s, he and John Keel were presenting this possible connection between the UFO phenomena and Bigfoot phenomena way ahead of its time. And, you just wonder why we don't have a body yet. And we should not only have a body, we should have maybe 100 bodies. And I think it's a red flag that there might be, what I always say is, it appears there's something else going on here, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. But whatever this phenomena is, the creature phenomena I'm talking about, it's real. Dan Gordon, it's as real as can be to him. To these the Hong Kong nationals up in Dresden, it was as real to them. So it's a real phenomena, but it's inconsistent or mysterious because we don't have the body that we should.
Yeah. So might be a bit of a daft question, but do you believe that we as in population have not got a body or have never found a body? Do you believe that we've never got one?
Well, there's reports of Jacko and the Iceman in Minnesota and things like that. But it'd be easy enough if I were to find a body tomorrow, and I believe it to be a unknown primate. I would hold a news conference. I would set up a display in which different organizations can do an independent verification of it. And for the people that say, well, it's always covered up or things, once it's out in the open, once the media has it, it's no longer covered up. So you're going to have independent verification and things like that. So that hasn't happened yet. If that were to happen, I mean, we would make great strides, obviously. But we should have that body by now, and we don't, which is just a bit perplexing to me as a researcher. Now, in its defense, you could say, well, it's a low population, but the reality is it's seen virtually everywhere. So, I find that somewhat suspicious, but the fact that it's a real phenomena is absolutely, that's a given as far as I'm concerned.
So if it's not something paranormal in nature that's, making us not find these bodies, then it would have to be something biological, like the population of Bigfoots disposes of them somehow.
Yeah, there's reports of that they would throw them into glaciers up in the Alaska areas and so forth. They bury their dead or dispose of somehow. I have no idea. I know that nature takes care of itself very quickly. And so you would have to, because every year we have hunters in the Northeast here of the Adirondacks that would hunt deer. And yet you find very few. You see lots of deer, but you find very few dead deer from winter kill. But, you do find a few, but you should find probably more. So, I mean, you could make a case that way, I suppose. But it just seems like we have sightings in every state. We have sightings, in bordering countries. We should have something by now, and we don't. But it doesn't mean that the phenomena isn't real. The phenomena is very real, leaves behind physical evidence. It's cited by extremely credible law enforcement officers and credible witnesses. So it's very real, but it's inconsistent. We need that body to confirm everything. And until we have that, the skeptic will always make that argument, and it's a legitimate argument.
Yeah.
So it's very frustrating.
See, I was just looking through the chat, and people are saying that the government take the bodies and there's a big cover up. But like you said, once it goes out, it's out there. It's different now. Once something's on the internet, it's difficult to take it back down.
But people have come forward with bodies.
Well, you would have to bring it to a source. Let's say, New York Times, the NBC News, ABC News, CBS, CNN. If you bring it to one of those sources, it's not going to get covered up. It's going to be exposed immediately, and then it's out. And so that would be if somebody's keeping this under wraps, they're doing a very thorough job. And I find it hard to believe that one hasn't been hit by a car and then brought, immediately bring it to the local news station. And particularly nowadays, I don't know how you would go about covering something like that up.
Did you hear about, it was a few years back, I'm trying to find the information, a policeman and a former corrections officer found, supposedly in Georgia, the body of Bigfoot, and they turned it into the government, and it was studied.
I believe there was that incident, I think it was in Georgia, where they had the news conference with CNN with the fake. It was a fake body, and that was just unbelievably set us back decades in terms of credibility. Those incidents, that particular incident was a terrible stain on cryptozoology. But if you had a legitimate body, one that was real, and you brought it before a scientist at a independent news area, there's no covering that up. So I find it hard to believe that there's a systematic attempt here, because I don't know if it's possible that it could be done. It'd be like trying to take everybody's UFO videos away. Once they're posted and out, they're out.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a picture on the computer. I'm just trying to find it. I'm going to pop it up on screen. It's supposedly, of a Bigfoot that's dead. So I'm just going to add it into the overlays now. And I don't know if this is real or fake or whatever. It's quite an old one. It's been in a few magazines. So it's this one.
Oh.
Yeah, I would definitely have great suspicions
Yeah.
about photoshopped and things like that. I've seen similar types of pictures. One with that made the rounds that had like a revolutionary North and South soldiers, I should say, with a pterodon or pterodactyl. And
Yeah.
I generally think those are hoaxed. If you're going to have a legitimate picture, there should be some sort of story with it. You have to have verification of who took the picture, and you have to have something to verify it. Otherwise, there's scores of pictures that have been taken and presented, and a lot of times they just become the fodder of magazines and things to put up an image with an article. Now, there was actually an image taken in Vermont from a trail cam that was taken by the person that set it up was Frank Sasquatch. And Frank, there's no question about his sincerity. I've known Frank. He's very credible, and he wanted to see what was eating his apples. And he had this image of this very large sort of white type creature that looked like it was scooping up apples. And he asked me, what should I do with the image? Because it was a trail cam. It just happened to pop up. I said, well, post it and let people at it. And some people look at it and they say it's an owl close to the lens. They say it's this, that, or the other thing. But we did have, they had Bruce Maccabee look at it. And Bruce said it's not close to the lens. So whatever it is was very large. And unfortunately, he had the camera set to take a picture at 1 minute intervals. So we know that whatever this was in the picture, it was only there for a minute or less. If it was there a minute and a second, we'd have 2 pictures of it. But I think that is definitely a legitimate picture. But I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, it's big. And it's where many of the Bigfoot sightings took place, in the Hubbardton area where Frank lives. And so there's no question about the sincerity of that picture. It's just a matter of what it is. And if you were to Google Vermont trail cam picture Frank Sasquatch, it comes right up.
I think, Nicole, is that the one you've just sent me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So I've got it ready. I'll pop it up now.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
There's a researcher named Steve Culls who got to that exact same spot, exactly where the camera was at, and kneeled down in that position, and the creature eclipsed him. It was much bigger than he was. So we know whatever that is, it's big. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a bear because it doesn't have the ears sticking up.
No.
Right. And the skeptic argument was basically it's an owl close to the lens. But Bruce Maccabee said no based on the shadows and what he looked at it. And I'm inclined to believe Bruce.
Yeah. Well, I've just clicked on the link that you sent me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, I'll tell you again, unavailable due to legal reasons. So
that's weird.
Yeah,
very strange.
This photo has been out there for years. Frank posted it right away. I think it was 2010, and I know it's been written up in books. And it's made the rounds for years. And to this day, no one has submitted a picture exactly like it to say, "Oh, this is what it is."
Yeah,
I tend to think that's real. That's the real deal. We just don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't really match up with what you would think anything else would be.
No, and in other pictures he had from that same trail cam, he had pictures of coyotes eating the apples, and he had pictures of deer and things. So those were very clearly visible. So whatever this thing was, it was very strange, and it was only there for less than a minute.
Yeah.
Aren't they said to chase, the deer and kind of follow them sometimes?
Yeah, we have Native American reports of that. And that would make sense. Certainly for this creature that exhibits both physical and metaphysical characteristics, there's definitely a physical component when it eats food. And we know in Kinderhook, Bruce found evidence that it was eating opossums and had actually stored some of it down there in a snowbank. And we have reports from Frank Szynski of witnesses seeing these creatures going through the swampy areas, grabbing plants and things from swampy areas. So there's all sorts of food out there to support this type of creature. But it's really interesting when you look at both the physical and the metaphysical or non-physical components to these creatures. It seems like there's a lot going on here, and we seem to just keep pushing forward, and perhaps we'll find that source at some point.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just having another look at it. It's just
I know, because you
I've
can
never
see
seen
the
that
arms,
before.
like with shoulders.
The shoulders just come right out.
Mhm.
That's like someone who's been at the gym 24/7. It's just I'll just pop it up again. It's just
now if you look at the bottom
normal. And the leg.
Yeah, if you look at the bottom of the picture, some people claim that it's a creature carrying a baby, and that's a paw or a hand.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been analyzed, and skeptics will take their opinions. But the only thing I can say for sure is this is a real picture. There's nothing faked here.
Baby Bigfoot, little foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever it was eating apples. It wanted apples.
Yeah. It's a shame there's no video footage to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been great had it at the interval been at 5 seconds or something.
Yeah.
But he also would have had 10,000 pictures of everything from from deer and bear.
Yeah.
So I think we're lucky to get that. I think whatever,
Definitely.
and we know that there were reports in the area of a large bipedal creature right in that particular area. So the Hubbardton, Vermont area, the Whitehall, New York area, the Kinderhook, New York area, Chittenden, Vermont, Rutland County, Vermont. We know we have a lot of reports from these particular areas.
Yeah. Right. Can I put a picture up? I was going to do a thing on it, but I've just never got round to doing it. And I've just seen the pictures in me slidey thing. Like, don't know what it's called. So this was sent to me by my cousin, who he goes fishing at a place called Wigan. Just it's in Greater Manchester, but it's going out towards Blackpool area, so it's northwest of England. Now he was in his fishing bivvy, and he went, this day come bolting through, ran through, knocked his bivvy over, and something was chasing it, but he couldn't see where it was. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he went out to have a look, and he seen this footprint. So I'll put the footprint up. So I can see the claws on that. So if that was a big cat, big cats retract the claws unless they're attacking something, or it's like any cat, isn't it? Like it's climbing and what have you. But to me, that's a dog footprint, and that is the size of a adult's hand, male adult. So you're talking what, 5-6 inches?
Interesting.
Now, so I was talking to my cousin on the phone when he sent this photograph over, and I was relaying back as to what I thought it was. He's like, I mentioned Dogman. He's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He was like, and my cousin said the face that he pulled was like, yeah, whatever, sort of thing. But there's nothing like that in the UK. I have sent it out to a couple of people, and they said that if anything, it would be a wolf, but there are no wolves in England. I know they have got them out in up in Scotland.
Do you have wolf dogs over there? Like the
Sorry?
hybrid? Do you have wolf dogs like the hybrids people keep as pets?
Yeah, but this one was what was chasing a deer at 3 o'clock in the morning on a fishing lake. So, and that I'd say is roughly about the size of my hand, which I've not got a massive head, by the way. But it's just as a like size ratio. So so I'll put it up next to my phone. So there you go. So that's roughly the size of that print. But he said he could only see one of him. So I don't know. I can only give you the story that I was given and then the photograph to go with it.
Oh, I think he did the right thing by documenting it, because that maybe somebody will recognize something in that picture eventually, and maybe you'll get another case exactly like it down the road. All you can do is document when you come across one of these phenomena and get it as close as possible. So I think he did exactly the right thing, and maybe down the road we'll have some more answers.
Yeah, well, that photograph was taken. It's 2019, around summertime. So, like, I think it said July, August time.
Fairly recent, yeah.
So, and there have been reports of other things seen in the area. Where he was, I know of a report of some werewolf/dogman thing not too far away from there. A few years earlier, it was near a prison, actually, a place called Risley Remand Centre, and that's not too far down the road from where this place was. Probably about 6-7 miles away, I guess. But I keep forgetting to put it on, and I just thought I'd seen it. Then it's like, right, I'm going to do it now. But it's just weird how it's just that one photograph at early hours of the morning, and he said, from what I'm just trying to remember, the conversation was that he didn't go back to have a look for anything else in case there was something else there that he didn't want to see.
Yeah, God forbid it was a wolf or anything. Who would want to run into that?
Yeah, someone in the chat, well, Baby with Lasers put, was it Wigan Flashes? It was a place called Ince, INCE, in Wigan in Lancashire. So I don't know that even if it did, I won't give the name of the fishing place away, because you don't know how many people end up going there and having a look. So yeah, they won't be impressed with me if it did that. Yeah, so that was it. So it's like what, just over 4 years ago, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. To me, that's a dog print. It's a big dog print.
Yeah, it looks like a dog print.
Sure does. Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. I just thought I'd see what you guys thought of it.
Yeah. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to have somebody set up a trail cam out there, see what they can catch.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know my cousin, I don't know if he still does, he used to go there quite a lot. I know he's not been for a while because of the crappy weather we've got over here. But, if he goes back, I'm sure he'll let me know. He might even be watching tonight, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So that was that. I just thought I'd share it before I forget again. Right. You want to do the next question?
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
It's from Baby with a Laser. Paul, any thoughts on the Thunderbirds of Native American mythology and legend?
Well, like I said, with the 76 case, we had a hunter, a couple of hunters who reported what they called a pterodon, a giant prehistoric bird, at the same time that this creature outbreak and the UFO outbreak was occurring. That's in August of 76. So yeah, and of course, Lauren Coleman has collected those types of reports for years, and there were a couple of other researchers that almost specialized in the Thunderbird report. So yeah, I think it's another part of this mysterious world of cryptozoology, and it appears to have a lot of legitimacy. And isn't it interesting that you have a strong Native American background with that phenomena, just as we do with the Bigfoot phenomena?
Yep. Thank you.
Cool.
Right. Oh, I should have done this one before that, but it doesn't matter. So this is from Jojo. She's asking, what's Paul's opinion on what dogmen are?
Unfortunately, I don't have very many dogman reports in this area. Many of the reports I have, even though they're different, in sizes and shapes and things, I don't have a lot of the dogman reports from this area. I know there's a few that have been made, but firsthand, I just don't have that data.
Right. No, thank you. I'll expand on that question then. What's your take on the Michigan Dogman video, the original? I've asked this to a few different guests, and they've all given me like mixed answers.
Yeah, I don't have a photographic background, so I would just be at the behest of the photo analysts. I would want people like Bruce Maccabee to look at it and things like that. Jeff Sanyo, people like that. I don't have the photographic background to offer anything conclusive on it.
Yeah, but it's like, was it? I know a couple of people have said it was two athletes in a suit, and the way it was filmed, there's both running at the same time. Some say that the first part of the video was genuine, but then they stopped it and they've recreated and added another bit onto that. And it's just, some people think it's all real, some think it's all fake. There's just a million different answers to it.
Unfortunately, once they start getting into, like half of the films are fake and half aren't, it's a cloud over it. If it's legitimate, you wouldn't need to put any type of faking to it at all. And, I know that comes up with some of the, in ufology, some of the people who have taken multiple pictures. You get document as well. And that sort of casts a shadow. I would be deeply suspicious of the entire video if any of it was faked. If you have the source of the video, you would have to go to the source of the video. You have to know who shot it and where they were, and you would have to go back. And if somebody says it's two athletes in a costume, then you need to try to duplicate it. And who knows, maybe you could duplicate it. Then that would certainly take it out of the realm of it can't be duplicated. Now, with the Bigfoot phenomena, rather in this area, when Dan Gordon had his sighting of the creature, we weren't able to duplicate anything crossing the road on three steps, crossing that major highway. In fact, when they shot that for a documentary for the History Channel, Giganto, we were shooting it on an off road of the original road that it was sighted at. And it was a smaller road, and we couldn't duplicate three steps. So we would have to get an extremely large person. My brother was 6'1", and he couldn't even come close. So it kind of takes it out of the realm of being duplicated.
Yeah, that's it. And like you said, one if you go to try and debunk it and you can't, then the chance that it's going to be real. Yeah,
I think that's part of the investigation, the due diligence to try to explain what could this possibly be. Is there a more likely logical explanation? I do hear reports a lot of times, and they're very sincere people, but they'll say, something was following me, and I heard steps, and it sounded bipedal, and it just isn't really a report like what Dan Gordon had. Like what happened out in Aber, like what the Hong Kong Nationals had, where they had a clear visual look at something spectacular. And those are those confirmation moments. So you may have had something trailing you, but if you didn't really see it, it isn't much of an incident. But I would, my threshold for evidence is a little higher probably personally, because I've never actually had an encounter that I could say, yes, I definitely saw a creature. I think I was close on one occasion, but it's not enough.
No.
And with the debunking thing too, it has to be reasonable, because I've seen videos where people have put it out and like normal people have tried to debunk it in normal ways. And then you have somebody come in and be like, well, if you bring in this $3 million piece of equipment, you could recreate it this way, but nobody's doing that.
Absolutely.
So it has to be reasonable.
Absolutely. And you know, for somebody to suggest that somebody at 4:30 in the morning was running across Route 22 in front of a police car, taking 3 steps across the road, meaning they'd have to have some sort of apparatus to make them taller, you know, because they're 7 feet tall. They'd have to be wearing a suit and then outrun a policeman who immediately pulls over with his weapon drawn.
On like pogo sticks.
It seems pretty absurd. And then you add to it that Dan takes a polygraph and passes. The other officer confirms everything. So yeah, those are strong cases. Those are hard for the skeptics to just dismiss. If you take a look at the UFO phenomena, that the Nimitz pilots were mistaken by glare off of their windshield, please. These are highly qualified jet pilots flying our most sophisticated aircraft. No, they aren't mistaking objects for glare off a windshield. I mean, it's absurd that a skeptic would. Those were the immediate explanations by skeptics when the Tic Tac incident first came apparent. And you know, once you hear the pilots themselves describe the encounter, no, this is something much more interesting, much more spectacular. And yeah, it's hard to just get rid of it if you're a skeptic. Yeah, I find, you know, we don't know what that object was, but it doesn't mean, you know, you don't need to discredit the witness who is highly qualified.
Could it have been in theory glare? Yes, but was it? No, because these are highly trained pilots and they know the difference.
Yeah. And there would be tracking glare on radar and all sorts of problems.
But the thing is as well, because I was just before come on here doing this, I was watching a few strange videos, like high strangeness videos, UFOs and that. And we were saying about UFOs, it's like straight away the majority of people think, oh, aliens, but that's not necessarily true. Secret aircraft that are being test driven and stuff like that. There's a couple we was watching, and it's showing you could see a jet fighter, you could see the vapor trail, and there's a UFO behind what said was a UFO behind it. Then it went in front, and it's like, yeah, but the people that were doing the show were saying like, yeah, it could have been a training exercise. It could have been trying out new technology and seeing how fast it can go. Because you all know jets can travel at what 2,000-3,000 miles an hour now. So if they're trying out a new type of tech, then it could be that.
Well, we have the documents where they're talking amongst the facilities. For instance, in the 70s, when those Air Force bases were besieged by objects, and those were nuclear objects were being tested. They were talking amongst themselves in what were classified statements. Hey, what's going on here? We can't. So they were mystified. I tend to think that they were legitimately bewildered by whatever this phenomena was. And it's. I think the technology is what's really being displayed, that this technology is far in advance of what we now have and of what these pilots have had. And for the skeptic that says it's drones, you know, it wasn't drones in the 40s and 50s. No. It had very similar types of reports. So this is an incredibly consistent phenomena. And one of the things that I am very happy about, and a lot of the mainstream ufologists aren't, is the terminology. UFO and flying saucer give off they have baggage with those terms. When you say UAP, you kind of dismiss that alien baggage. And so now you're really looking at an unidentified aerial phenomena, not a flying saucer. And I think that that terminology I have no trouble with. I actually embrace that terminology because it's it's actually more accurate as to what's being cited.
Yeah.
If you remember that the flying saucer coming from the Kenneth Arnold case was really more delta wing, crescent shaped types of objects he was describing. It wasn't particularly a flying saucer. So I think, that the more accurate we can get, the more we can get rid of terms that might imply baggage. I think I'm all for it. And I think the encouraging thing is that we see in these areas like in Skinwalker Ranch and so forth, those types of places where we have the research going on and there's all sorts of myriad of phenomena going on. I think that's the direction we have gone in, and that there's a connectivity possibly between these phenomena and that we're looking for that source. And I'm very encouraged by the way we're going with this. And I'm very encouraged by the disclosures that have come out. And boy, I never thought I would see a congressional hearing open to the public, even though much of it was behind closed doors later, where they talked openly about what they called, and I think this term is absolutely the most encouraging term that's come out, non-human. Yes. Talking about recovered non-human craft. That means
human biologics
entity, right? It really cuts through all the baloney. They're not saying flying saucer. They're not saying UFO. They're saying non-human craft. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting used to all the different terminology, like you said, from UFO to UAP and like USO. There's a couple more, but I can't remember them. There's two more what they use for it, but I think they're not very good, so that's probably why I forgot.
Probably.
Yeah. Right. Got a few more questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
So this one is from Baby with a Laser. So I was just checking it wasn't one we've already asked. Is there any evidence of any interaction between Dogmen and Bigfoot, and do you think they are aware of each other?
Oh, and this one goes right along with that too.
Yeah, the take on the Dogman, whether you're talking about the old lycanthropy reports and things like that, what it may very well be that the Dogman reports are the same types of reports that Brad Steiger would have classified as werewolf or wolf-like creatures. I just don't have a database in this area that it would be large enough to draw any type of conclusions. I don't get a lot of Dogman reports, but I do read about them, the Linda Godfrey research and so forth. But yeah, I find it fascinating and I try to keep up with it, but I don't have the inside edge on reports, very many reports like that in this area.
Right. No, thank you for that. Right, do you want to do the next one, Nicole?
Sure.
Is from Anne Hollowell.
Do you think Bigfoot is interdimensional?
I think that's a possibility, and I really think that when we look at the UFO phenomena, Dr. Hynek was talking about parallel realities, and when we look at the Bigfoot phenomena, sometimes you have these creatures disappearing, tracks disappearing in the middle of a field, and things like that. I think that's definitely something else is going on here. And I don't know if I would call it interdimensional or not, but I certainly wouldn't exclude it. And it certainly would help to explain some of the more paranormal cases. So as a researcher, I'm just taking in the information as it's reported as accurately as possible, and hopefully we'll get a better picture of what's going on. But yeah, I've often said at my talks and things that something else is going on here. There's a larger picture that we need to focus on.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the reports that Bigfoot can cloak?
I find that fascinating, and that they might use their vocals to discombobulate a witness and things like that.
Yeah.
Certainly, we know that there are natural phenomena. You know, the porcupine has quills to protect itself. The skunk has a odor it can give off to protect itself. So maybe there's something here that we just don't know about. Maybe there's something that would be more explainable with that red glowing eye. I'm very comfortable because when I look at the old vernacular of the eyes, they talk about the eyes were like burning embers. You know, it's the old vernacular of what we're describing now, like rays coming out, what Cliff Sparks had said. So I think those types of characteristics may yield some answers down the road. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there is some sort of larger picture going on here. I expect that at this point.
Yeah. Going off Dogman, so have you heard of the cat people? Now, I've asked this before, but I can't remember who I've asked it to. So, from what I can recall, they're like dogmen, but obviously they're more like cats, but they're supposed to be really benevolent.
Interesting. I haven't heard of, if you're talking about like a human type of
yeah, like a bipedal feline.
Yeah, what we get reports of in this area are catamons, which are just they're panthers, and they're not supposed to be here, but they're sighted all the time, and they used to be here a century ago, but they're sighted literally. And then you get black panther reports, but these are cat-like creatures, large creatures. And I know in the Skinwalker Ranch research, they were getting the more ancient wolves reports, the old timber wolf reports. And they didn't seem, they seem to have a paranormal aspect to them. They'd be shot and they wouldn't, they would just run away or disappear. So no, I don't know anything about cat-like creatures standing like humans. I haven't had any reports like that.
Well, they're called Lyrans. I knew it began with L, but I couldn't remember the name.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I've only heard of a few, literally, I could probably count on one hand the cases that I have heard, and they don't go into great detail about them.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. There's a myriad of creatures in this, this mysterious world of cryptozoology. And there's appear to be any number of manifestations. And perhaps that's another one of these creatures that's manifested from this source phenomena that we all seem to be looking for.
Yeah. Well,
that was not as widely accepted. So you sound a little crazy. You're saying, hey, I saw a giant cat man. And I saw a werewolf running down the street.
Right.
Yeah. Well, then you've got Goatman. You've got is it Frogman? I mean like the police, like a big, like humanoid type frog creature.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was it Loveland, Ohio?
That was it, Loveland Frogman. That was it. Yeah. And Joe's just put in the chat. You got Sheep Squatch, and
years ago, I think it was the late '80s. We had the Lizard Man of Bishopville, South.
Yes.
And what was interesting about that case is that while it appeared very aggressive because it went after the car and actually had some damage done, the police officer who investigated that case, the police, I believe he was a police chief. He had like 3 law degrees. He was a very smart individual. He said point blank that no question in his mind that witness was sincere and that was real phenomena going on. But he was also he wanted to make sure that they weren't going to start putting up hoaxes and things like that he would try for that. So but that initial report is very credible. And
didn't he have like claw marks down the rear wing of the car, or bite even a bite in the bumper or something?
Yep, there was physical damage done to the automobile. And I forget what his title was, whether it was police chief. I'm probably wrong there, but he knew the family, and he said, "There's, this is legitimate," and he was genuinely scared. And that's actually a very impressive case. And we didn't have a lot of reports of that type of creature, but it became kind of a media sensation, and the lizard man became fodder for T-shirts. And I remember there was a radio station holding a contest, and all sorts of things were going on. Then you had CBS News and the national news is going down and reporting on it. So it became sort of a media sensation. But that initial report was very solid.
Yeah. So why do you think that we get a lot of reports of Dogman and Bigfoot, but not that many? Someone's just put in, like, you've got the praying mantis type cryptids. A lot of people believe that they're an alien species. Like saying can't remember the lycrans, the cat people. You've got the dog-headed people, and you're only getting maybe 1 or 2 reports of these. Do you think then that Earth, or the plane that we're living on now, is some sort of stopping point for these as they're passing through to wherever they're going to go?
Well, there could be a couple of explanations. One might be that the Bigfoot phenomena seems incredibly consistent for decades and decades and decades, hundreds of years. Where, like, the Chupacabra reports, let's look at them. They kind of began in the mid-90s. Now, you might be able to stretch a case back to the 70s, looks like a Chupacabra type of thing, but of that data begins in the mid-1990s. So that's one of the differences between the Bigfoot phenomena and some of these other phenomena. But perhaps it's so unknown to most people. Researchers like yourself would know about it, but maybe the public at general doesn't have that much knowledge about those types of specific cases. And so people that have encountered them haven't reported them as much. So there could be a couple of different things going on there.
Yeah, because another one report is in the 1970s in Cannock Chase in the UK of the pigman of Cannock.
Interesting.
But with that one, there's a few different things. Was he born with a deformity, or did he have some sort of disease? So there's a couple of different, like, more logical explanations for it. But then he was supposed to have been seen running around at night where the towers used to be for the old military base. I forgot what it's called then. So you've got all that. It's like you said, it's a bit of a mix of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, and that makes it more puzzling, because when you think you're on the right road to working something out, something else would come along. It's like, oh, that's that gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just so annoying.
That's the entire job.
Yeah. Right. We've got
it almost seems like when you almost have a handle on it, it changes. It evolves, and it keeps you at bay. But it's tantalizing. It's fascinating. I've been in this for 50 years, and I embrace that I've met people like you, you folks, because they're so many fine researchers out there, and there's a legitimate mystery here. And so, I just embrace that we keep pushing forward, and I think we're getting closer and closer. We certainly are a lot closer than when I began. And Brad Steiger, it took me 50 years to catch up to where Brad was in the 60s. So I think we just keep pushing forward, and the answers will come. We're talking about quantum physics now, which and multidimensionalism, which we didn't talk about years ago. They were sci-fi concepts. So I think we're going in the right direction, and I think this research, the areas like Skinwalker Ranch and stuff, may yield some real promise down the road.
For sure. And just the fact that we can sit here and have these conversations, and there's so many others like it, and we can just be so open with it.
Absolutely.
It's a huge difference than where we were, even 10 years ago.
And nowadays with social media being, I mean, we're able to connect now where, you know, back when I started, we'd have to mail letters. And then if it was China, I had to translate the information. And so now everything is instant. So yeah, I think we're going in a nice positive direction, and as much disclosure as possible. And I think that a lot of these disclosures that have come through officially, it's going to be hard to bottle that back up. So I think it's out there now, a lot of it, and hopefully more to come. Let's hope that 2024 brings us what 2023 did and more.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
2020 brought us. We can.
No, we can do without that.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. But do you think though that it's like I was saying, as soon as we think we're getting somewhere, it evolves to something else?
Mm-hmm.
Is it doing it just through normal nature, or is it doing it to keep us on our toes?
Well, I know a lot of the researchers call that the trickster phenomena.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely it's interesting how that happens. And you know, there's so many ways to look at this, but when you get right down to the data, just keep collecting the data and the picture will emerge. And if it is changing, that will emerge as well. So
yeah,
I remember, I think Brad and Sherry Steiger's, one of their later books was called The UFO Odyssey, which was how when they first began investigating the UFO phenomenon, they were among some of the earliest. And of course, Sherry, they both passed on now, but Sherry was Dr. Hynek's secretary for a time.
Ah, yes.
So she had an inside look as well there, and this incredible data. And it was just how the phenomena seems to evolve, and you know, where they were. And I think that's what we got to do. That's the journey here, is to keep following it and documenting it. And yeah, let's see what that picture looks like in another 10 years.
Yeah. I think that's all we can do, isn't it, really? Just keep chasing what we want.
Our technology,
willing we're all around to see it, and the spies listening to this don't take us out.
That's right. Our technology,
better be around.
Our technology keeps getting a little better and a little better, and pictures are more interesting. And yeah,
definitely. Right, we've got 3 more questions. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right. Do you want to do this one, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do it.
Right, it says the word poop, so there you go.
I can't say that word. That's a potty word.
There you go.
All right, Fred wants to know, we know bears do it, but do dogmen and Bigfoot poop in the woods? Has any been found?
I know of cases where scat droppings have been collected and so forth. The cases that I was aware of was back in the 80s, before the DNA revolution really took over. So yeah, that's something to watch for, and to, you know, hopefully it is preserved, because we know with the hair samples, there can still be a tremendous controversy if it's not handled properly. And there's always the possibility of contamination, and whether it happens or not, it can be called contamination, you know, by a skeptic. So yeah, the information, the evidence must be handled properly. And yeah, there are cases of fecal matter that have been collected. I don't know what the analysis finally is. It usually is a bit costly to have it done, and usually researchers aren't, you know, well off financially to do such things. But yeah, I've heard of reports of scat being collected.
In case you wanted every synonym for the word poop, Paul has just hit them all.
Yes. There we go.
Danced around the big one.
Oh, right. Next question is from Michael Kopf. Welcome, Michael. And he wants to know, why do you think Bigfoot bends trees in the form of an X? Is it a calling card, so to speak?
Yeah, I've seen these structures. I don't know what to make of them. It seems like a lot of the researchers, particularly in the East here, have noted that. And, that's one of those things. You document it and you keep going forward with the investigation, and maybe we'll get some sort of answers. I don't know what that means. It's fascinating though, and it's been reported by a number of very credible researchers. So I find it very fascinating.
Yeah, I've seen when I've been to Cannock Chase. First time I went, just taking random photos, and there's a footpath, and it might just be coincidence, but some of the routing from the trees look like the letter A, but there seem to be a few of them, like as you're walking round. It doesn't look, I don't know if it's natural or something's done it, but I sent them off to somebody and they said that is a like a messaging system for whatever's living in the forest.
Interesting. I
don't know.
To add to it, I find it interesting, and I've seen some that do look definitely natural, and others that look very artificial. So I don't know what to make of it. But let's keep documenting, and let's put up some cameras in those areas and some trail cams, and maybe we'll get some clues.
It just seemed too straight to be natural. It's like something's, because how difficult is it going to be to twist a route without snapping it to get it to go? You're going to have to keep going back, and keep changing it. So that's something that takes time to do.
Yeah, very puzzling.
Yes, very. Like I said, I've got the photos of it somewhere, so I'll dig them out. I'll send them to you once I find them. See what you think.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to do the last question, Nicole? There you go.
This is from Baby with a Laser. Any cases of cryptids that defy description?
That defy description.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really clear on that. The cryptid reports I have, generally they talk about arms and legs and things like that. I don't know of any that I don't know if they're asking, like, is it a ambiguous fog-like creature or things like that. I don't have reports like that. Most of them they talk about a physical look to it with arms and legs and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Interesting question though.
And I'm sure it's happened, but maybe people just couldn't really report it because they couldn't put into words what happened to them.
Yeah, it's like when I talk about they talk about manifestations from the same source phenomenon. I always equate it to water, and water can take almost any shape because a river, a raging river, a rapid, tranquil lake. And then if you freeze it, then it takes a finite shape, but it's also a myriad of different shapes. And if you were to, heat up the water, then it becomes a vapor or a fog, and it affects you completely differently. So in that case, you would have the source would be water, H2O, and yet it's in different forms and different descriptions, depending on what state it's in. And so you would get a myriad of different types of reports.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all just frustrating, but fascinating at the same time.
Yeah.
It's annoying is what it is. It's really annoying because you want to know and it's not happening.
That might be a good title for a book. Frustrating, but fascinating.
Yeah. I'm never writing a book, so anyone else can have it. It says. Have you any more questions, Nicole, before we finish up?
No. Let's just let everybody know where to find Paul.
Yes.
Sure. You can get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook, or you can reach me on the internet at BF Yeti, YETI, the number 1 at yahoo.com. And I'm based right here in Whitehall, New York.
BF Yeti 1 at Yahoo.
Yep.
Oh, Andy got it.
It's the number 1.
Yep. That's in there. Lowercase or caps?
Lowercase.
It doesn't matter for email.
Yeah.
You changed it now. Some you can use caps, and if you don't put them in, you don't get the email.
Interesting.
What?
Yeah. So I just stick to lowercase on everything. I know where I'm at. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think it was just
It's too complicated.
Gmail that did it. Oh, right. So thank you for coming on again, Paul. Thank God this time there was no glitching, and we managed to get a full show.
We avoided the gremlins this time.
Yes, right. That's because we didn't do the break.
It was a break. That's what it was.
Yeah, but, it's a real pleasure to talk to you both.
Yeah, I honestly loved having you on. Hopefully you'll come on again at some point in 2024.
Absolutely. I hope you stay in touch. And
definitely.
Do it again.
Yeah. Have you got any projects that you've got coming up before we round this off?
Well, we're always collecting data. And I am working on another book based on Whitehall and where I live. And it's a cryptozoological nature. And, we're just always collecting data and reports. And if anybody has any information they'd like to share, come forward. We keep things confidential. We do it on your terms. And I will be speaking at Seth Breedlove's Small Town Monsters.
Yeah, I was going to say that Small Town Monsters, isn't it, Seth?
Yes. His convention coming up this year. I'll be speaking at that, and look forward to that. And if anybody has any information, please feel free to contact me anytime.
Are you doing the festival again this year?
Oh yeah, that's already been noted for I forget what the date was, but it's always the last Saturday in August, and that festival has gotten huge. Barbara Spohr and the coordinators have done tremendous job there in making this. We had probably 4,000 to 5,000 people at last.
I might make a trip up for that one.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And they have the calling at the end, but before the calling, there's all sorts of researchers giving their talks, and then they have the calling, which is so much fun. Everybody has their own style and Bigfoot call, and what it does is it puts a subject that was a very negative subject in the 70s. It puts it in a very positive, family friendly light, and it's a positive. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Excellent. Right. Thank you again for coming on. Just a quick update before we do go, because a lot of people were asking about on Friday's show about Dominic Zenden that came on. So Dominic I've been speaking to him over the weekend, and he has agreed he'll be coming on the last Friday of each month to do a round table like we did then. So that's going to be a regular feature. So that's going to start. So this 24-hour podcast that I'm doing it's already gone up to 25 hours. It might be hitting 26 now. So, but that is it. It's definitely not going to be any more than 26 hours.
You better get some stock in Red Bull.
Oh, I'm just going to sleep. Next week, I'm just sleeping. But no, so yeah, he's going to be doing the last Friday of the month. It just, the times and everything work better for him. So we've sorted all that out. If you want to go on his Facebook page, it's invite only. It's HOPE, and yeah, if you click on it, you'll see. If you're friends with any of us, you'll see us in there anyway, so you know it's the right place. And that's everything. So join us on Wednesday at 8:30, where the guest is going to be. Nicole, do you know who the guest is going to be?
Not me, because I won't be there.
Oh, you're not here next Wednesday?
We talked about this.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
it's me on my own. It's all right.
Take my job.
Yeah. 17th. That's it. Yeah. Sorry. So I'll be on my dumped again by both Nicole and Tommy, and it's going to be Debs, Shakti, Buller. So yeah, join me at 8:30 on Wednesday. Thank you again, Paul. Absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah, you too, and definitely keep in touch.
For sure.
Everyone else, see you on Wednesday, 8:30, 3:30 EST. See you then. Bye bye. Thanks.